Yes, viewers, welcome back to our lesson in Archicad. Please remember to subscribe and like the page. So let's continue from where we left. Now we are going to start on how we can use the mesh tool. Mesh is a tool used just for landscape. You can create a landscape or creating a parcel of land within your project or within your house plan. So when you click on the mesh tool, which is it's called the mesh tool, it's for landscaping. In the settings, you click on the settings, then you have your settings dialog box for the mesh here. So you can change the thickness of your mesh or the height of the mesh to whatever size that you want. Remember, you're creating a parcel of land. So let me have a mesh of 350 height. And also remember, the mesh goes below the slab. So we have an offset of -200. So it has to be negative. So when you click and to change this to maybe 500, you can give it 500. And remember, our mesh is environmental, or you can make it as grass. That's the default. Then you come to the model. Then you can see here the top surface is green. You can link the whole of it, or you can make it green. Click on that arrow, and then you can make it green with foliage grapes, or just do a green, because remember, it's a grass. So we can have grass, and then you click OK. So once you have clicked OK, remember, a mesh is just a landscape or the size of your land, or just a parcel where you want to, where your house plan is going to stand. So here you can have a rectangular mesh. You can draw a rectangular mesh around. Once you've drawn the rectangular mesh, you can see it here in our plan. So when you go to 3D view, you'll see our mesh tool. So this is our mesh tool. Remember, it's below the slab, because that's where our land is going to be. I can change the settings for this mesh. I'm going to my settings, or I can change it from here. I can make it 350. You hit the enter key, it goes down. And then I can also change this to generic, or I can do this grass. I can still come back here, and then I want to make it grass. It's my grass. And do grass. For the versions which have the grass, you can pick the grass to act as your mesh. Or maybe forest green. You click OK. Not like that. I'm going to go back here. We have foliage. Yeah, grass. Then you click OK. So when you view our mesh, this is just for the plot. This is the plot where you're going to do your design. You can see our mesh is below the slab, so it doesn't touch the slab. So we want to cut the mesh and see where our building is going to stand in this particular parcel of land. So when you come back to floor plan, just double click on ground floor. I want to cut the mesh, or we can just leave it like that, because the drawing, our slab is above the mesh. So You can see here. So we are fine. That's our slab. That's our slab. It's below the mesh. So we are good to go. So when you come back to ground floor plan, you can decide to cut the mesh to define, so that maybe you don't want to see it on your drawing plan. To cut the mesh tool, you select the existing mesh and then come to pick the mesh tool, and then you want to draw it along your house plan. So once you click on the mesh tool, then click on the mesh again, pick the mesh tool. Pick the existing mesh, then pick the mesh tool, and then now you come and draw. So we have our mesh, so you can pick this because our plan is polygonal. So you click and then start to draw it along the wall. So I don't want to pick rectangular. Remember, our plan is not rectangular, so I pick like that, polygonal. Then I start to draw my mesh around the wall. That's how we cut mesh. You pick an existing mesh, then pick the mesh tool, then you draw it around. Make sure you have to close it, the same thing we did with the slab. Then it asks you to create a hole. So you can click create hole, then you click OK. So we have our mesh, and now our house plan is standing there. That's how we cut a mesh in Archicad. So we'll come back to the 3D. You'll see our mesh has been cut to allow some area for doing foundation works. So that's how we cut mesh. So when you come to the floor plan, now you can see our mesh is not interfering with our floor plan because already it's been cut. So after that, now let's move to how we can create terrains using contours. At times you can be having data from the surveyor, and then now you want to define that parcel of land. Remember, the parcel of land is not flat, as in our case here. You can see our mesh is flat. So this means this place is flat. So let's see how we can elevate various parts of a mesh, because the parcel is not always flat. So we want to see how we do terrains and use contours to elevate our mesh. So let's just go back to ground floor plan. I'll draw it on the side, so that at least I can show you how we can do elevation for the mesh. So for that, you click on the mesh tool. As I said earlier, you have rectangular mesh or you have polygonal. So you can draw the mesh depending on the size of the land. That's our mesh tool, which is also flat. So when you use to do your elevations for the mesh, we have to use what we call a spline tool. Under document, we have spline tool. It's our spline tool. Spline. And click on more. Yeah, we have spline under more. So once you've drawn the mesh, you pick your spline tool, so you can draw like a spline. You click. Using our splines. Just click. When you're drawing, just click on because it's a curved line. And double click to exit. So you can have as very many splines as possible. Yeah, I'm using my spline tool. This one will help me now define my elevations. You can elevate the mesh. You can have different heights of that land. So once you've used your spline tool, now we want to create points for using the spline tool so that we can have elevation, so you can see how our mesh is not flat. So we can have a rugged rugged piece of land. So to do, after you have drawn your spline tool on the mesh and the mesh, so you come back, use the arrow, you select everything. You select the mesh and the spline together. Then you click on the mesh tool, Once you click on the mesh tool now we want to add more points to our splines, because these are the points, the nodes that you see, these are the points which I clicked. So we want to add more points and see how now we can elevate different areas in our mesh. So to add more points, once you have selected and activated the mesh tool, when the mesh tool is active, you press and hold the space bar. Then you click on the spline, one of the spline. Then you can see we have add new points or create a hole. So you click fit to all ridges. Then you click OK. You can see the points already been added. For the second spline, you also press and hold the space bar. You click to all ridges. So just click. Make sure you press and hold the space bar to turn in a magic wand tool. So we have added points. Yeah. So after adding the points now, so we want to elevate. Some of the points. Some can be in a lower elevation, some can be higher, so that we can define the landscape of our mesh. So still, you click on one of the points, and then here you can see we have, just click one of the points, and then we have elevation. Click one of the points, and then we have elevation. That's Z. So we need to give it that height. So here in the dialog box, mesh point height, we can give a height. So let me have a height of maybe 500. Then you click apply to all. When you click OK, you'll see that height with the reference with our mesh has been taken. Then click one of the points again, and then you also elevate maybe 100. Then you click OK, apply to all. So you can see the interconnection between the two. Click, then now you elevate maybe 1200. Click OK. Yes. Then also again this, you elevate. Maybe you can also have a negative point. Negative 200. You can have a negative point. Click. Then the next one is another point. Just click one of the points, and then maybe 1000. So these are points. Maybe you've got them from the surveyor, or you've just done your measurement, or geomap, or land XML, or just points from any other source which Archicad can be able to understand. So maybe 450. Click apply. And then the last one is this one. We can also elevate. We can make it to a lower point of like 20. Then you click OK. So when you look at this mesh, it's kind of rugged, because now we have this spline will act as our contours. And then we also have the slopes with the reference to the height that we have given to each and every contour. Then now you can just escape. So when you look into this, you will find you have a rugged mesh, or a piece of land which is not flat as compared to the one that we had done earlier. So to view this only, you come to your Macui tool, and then just draw your Macui, and then just draw it around the mesh. Then once you've done that, remember, as I said earlier, I want to only view this part. You right click, then come to show selection, Macui, stroke Macui in 3D. If you're using desktop, you can use the keyboard, just press F5, So when you look at our mesh, you can see it's now not flat. It is rugged, so some places are high, some places are low. So you can start to cut and then make your drawing, make your plan on this mesh. Let me just change this to grass again. Let me change that to grass. You pick grass. Grass was somewhere here. There's foliage. It was grass. We had grass, not carpet. We had grass. Not forest green. Grass. Then you click OK. So when you look at our mesh, this type of mesh, now you can see it is rugged. Because in real life, the piece of land cannot be flat always. There are some places which are high or low. So that's how we set the elevations for the mesh using the mesh tool, the spline, and then you give your points. So we can orbit and see now this is our land. So you can easily locate where you want to start building by cutting the mesh again. You can still come back to ground floor, and then now you can escape the marquee tool, click on the escape, and then now you can cut this mesh again. So when you click on the mesh tool, then pick the mesh, pick an existing mesh, then pick the mesh tool, then you draw a mesh around so that you can cut. So maybe that's your building area. You click and then you can see it asks you to create hole, then you click OK. So this is now where you're going to start doing your house plan. So when you come to 3D again, you can see now the mesh has been cut. So this is where you're going to do your construction of our house. That's it for mesh. Thank you. Let's meet the next lesson. Mesh.